Hello everyone. I'm Vijay Krishna from Department of Philosophy. I'm presenting a seminar on Purusharthas and Varnashrama Dharma and philosophical foundation, social reality, and modern critique. So, first of all, I want to start with basic existential questions. Like as a human beings in a life, once in a life, we'll think about this life, and we will ask our questions like, what is the ultimate aim of human life, and is life meant for wealth and pleasure alone, or is there is a higher purpose, and is moral duty socially determined or universally binding, and can spiritual liberation coexist with social inequality? So these kind of questions all we ask ourselves once in a lifetime. Like if we have any desires, any materialistic desires or any dreams like that, we'll ask ourselves sometimes, should desire be suppressed, regulated, or transformed, and are the goals of human life universal or socially conditioned? Like whatever the goals we have, is this universal, or like society is conditioned as our mind, and conditioned our goals? Is this happening, or is this natural? Once in a lifetime we'll ask these kind of questions to ourselves. So all these questions, classical Indian theories will answer, and in the theories of Purusharthas and Varnashrama Dharma. So we'll look into it. The background and context. Purusharthas means teleological goals of human life. Here teleological means ultimate goals of human life. So Purusharthas will focus on teleological goals, and Varnashrama Dharma means it's a normative social ethical order. And in this presentation, the co-tension between ethical universality and versus social hierarchy. And one more question: do Purusharthas exist without the Varna system? And philosophy versus historical institutionalization. All this, this is the background, and this is the context. And Purusharthas, the four aims of human life: the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The Dharma means, you know already, it's moral duty, righteousness, and social harmony, regulates and guides all other pursuits. Here, Artha means material prosperity, wealth, and power necessary for stability and living. And Kama means, we all know, in English we will call it as lust, and whatever the desires, it will come under Kama. And Moksha means liberation from this materialistic world, or we can call it as a spiritual liberation, the end of the suffering. So next to the Ashrama Dharma. So the four stages of life, in classical Indian philosophy, the four ashramas are there. One is Brahmacharya, and the student stage, the discipline, learning, self-control, and moral formation, preparation for responsible social life. And Grihastha, household stage, it includes the marriage, family, and economic activity, and social foundation of society. Mostly the Grihastha means, you all know, the family. The family is a foundation and roots of our society. So the Grihastha comes under it. And Vanaprastha, retirement stage. So the gradual withdrawal from worldly duties and increasing detachment and spiritual reflection. And Sannyasa, it's the final stage, complete renunciation, exclusive pursuit of moksha, and spiritual liberation. The core idea is Ashrama Dharma structures life from education, and it will flows into from education and responsibility and detachment, after that liberation. Here the knowledge is coming first. So whatever the responsibility and detachment and liberation. If you want to acquire, if you want to pursue the responsibility, and if you want to learn how to detach ourselves from the materialistic world, or if you want to get liberation from all these things, first we have to gain the education, that is the knowledge. So if we gain knowledge only, then we'll pursue all these things. And these all four things are integrating worldly engagement with spiritual transcendence. And these all are Purusharthas and Varna system and Ashrama Dharmas are, if we conceptually integrate, it is Purusharthas means what to pursue and what is our goals in human life. Like in this life, we'll most of the times we'll confuse about life, what to achieve, how to live the life, and how to live happy life, and is the desires are worthy enough to pursue it, or we have to just leave the desires. All these things are come across to our mind. So to guide and to guide the path of life, our classical Indian philosophy is coming to the picture. And Varna, it is a not, it's a Purusharthas is individual centric, Purusharthas related to individual, and Varna is a society centric, and it is mainly Varna is social framework, role based duties, like what is our duties, what is our job, that will decide this Varna system. And Ashrama Dharmas, temporal framework, stages of life, like every individual, or whether it male or female, compulsory have faced all the stages of life, and together they form a classical model of purposeful life. Here Purusharthas is will give purposeful life, and Varna system gives ordered society, like social order. And this Ashrama Dharmas give finally the spiritual progression. So all this is a one package to life. And if before the discussion of deeply about Varna system and Ashrama Dharmas and the Purusharthas, first of all we have to know the three gunas which are presented, like the theoretical form of gunas in classical Indian philosophy. The three gunas are Sattva, Rajo, Tamo, and here Sattva means clarity, harmony and wisdom, and Rajas means activity, passion, ambition, and Tamas means inertia, ignorance and delusion. So these all three gunas are present in every individual, contains all three in varying proportions. So all three gunas are there in every individual, but varying in proportions. So actually these gunas are only according to our Indian philosophy only. So guna Varna connection. Here the Varna system is mostly like based on gunas. So the theoretical framework is the Brahmana in the society. The Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, these four varnas are there. In these four varnas, how the gunas proportions are varying, and predominance of sattva, knowledge oriented. So in the Brahmanas, the dominance of sattva will be more, and in Kshatriya, the sattva guna and rajoguna, the courage and leadership will be dominating in Kshatriya, and in Vaishya the Rajas and Tamoguna will be there. Here the Vaishyas are dealing with economic activity, and Shudra is Tamas dominant, and the Shudra people are mostly service oriented. So the early Vedic position. So how this early Vedic position is there regarding Varna and Ashrama Dharma and everything. So first of all, before this Varna system and Gunas and Ashrama Dharmas, these all things are written and logically framed in the texts, but these texts are like according to period, according to time period, these texts are varying. So like it is not like this is the formula, so this formula is continuing through ages and through one period to one period, definitely it will be there. It's not the case. Based on time period, these principles and this theories are changing according to the society conditions. So in the early Vedic period, the Varna is linked to qualities and functions. We already discussed about the Varnas and the qualities, the three gunas. So the three gunas is directly linked to Varna, and the Bhagavad Gita is in the Bhagavad Gita one, the sloka will be there. So that is the guna karma vibhagasya. So based on the gunas and karma, the society and individual is divided. So not so in Varnashrama. So initially this about the Varnashrama Dharma, the early Vedic position is not explicitly birth determined in early phase, but in Rigveda, if we see, especially the sloka of Purusha Sukta, symbolic cosmic unity, the hymn described society emerging from the cosmic being. The cosmic being is, if we consider the cosmic being is one human being, the Brahmins came from mouth and Kshatriya from arms and Vaishya from the thighs and Shudra from the feet. And here the early Vedic position is different from what we are studying now, because in the early Vedic period, so the feet means here Shudra, the feet are not inferior, they support the whole body. So here the in early Vedic period, the position is the equal importance. Here Shudra is not inferior than Vaishya, Vaishya is not inferior than Shudra. So the inferiority complex and superiority complex are absent in early Vedic position. So this is what we can observe in the early Vedic position. But after some period, like the same Varnashrama Dharma and Purusharthas and Ashrama life, in early Vedic position, this is the case. But in after the early Vedic period, in the Manusmriti, or we can call it as Manudharma Shastra, the position on Varna is completely different from the early Vedic position. That is birth based stratification. If we see the early Vedic position, it is not birth based. They are classifying on gunas and it is more flexible. But here, if we take the case of Manusmriti, it is birth based stratification and Varna determined by birth and status is inherited and not chosen. So the individual freedom is lacking in the Manudharma Shastra and shift from earlier functional flexibility to hereditary fixation and strict control over marriage and occupation. So because of Manusmriti, in that period, the endogamy was practiced, that is marriages within the Varna or marriages within the castes. So actually caste is born in this phase only, that is and the graded hierarchy is there. So the Brahmana, they are the spiritual supremacy and they show the Vedic authority. In this Manudharma Shastra, the spiritual supremacy of Brahmanas and Vedic authorities will be there, and the Kshatriya, the political power and protection, and Vaishya same, the economic production. These all their roles are same, but the difference is here. The difference is compared to the early Vedic position. Here it is rigid. In early Vedic period, it is flexible. But like occupational and social regulation, duties rigidly assigned to each Varna. But if we take the case of early Vedic period, it is not rigidly assigned. It is not rigidly assigned, and it is based on guna. It is more or less flexible, and like endogamy is enforced and mixed unions discouraged. Like because of the practice of endogamy, the unions of Varnas and the fraternity between the people belongs to different Varnas. The fraternity is absent, and the ritual purity and pollution central to social structure. Here the Manusmriti, the purity and pollution, especially the case of purity and pollution is emerged, and Dharma as social control. Dharma becomes a detailed legal moral code, and Swadharma tied to caste identity and social stability prioritized over individual mobility. And here in this Manusmriti, the Jati war emerged. Jati means like actually if you take the Varna in Manusmriti, there are like in early Vedic position only four classes are divided. That is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. But if we take the case of Manusmriti and and Bhagavad Gita period, the Varna is divided into thousands of jatis. So the difference between the like early Vedic period and Manusmriti is the society is divided into four Varnas. But if we take the case of Manusmriti, the each Varna is subdivided into thousands of jatis. That is later later it converted as caste, and caste means it's related to race. So that is the main difference. And the Bhagavad Gita position later, because of this criticizing and the controversy about Manodharma Shastra, like Ambedkar also burnt the Manusmriti publicly. So because of those kind of rebellious actions from the people, the society and this people are created this Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Varna is based like completely, the Bhagavad Gita context is completely different from early Vedic position and Manusmriti, because Varna based on guna and karma. It's not like if you take the early Vedic position, like guna and karmas are little bit different, and a little bit the enforcing of on the individuals it is different. But if we take the Bhagavad Gita, Varna is based on guna and karma, and the sloka is the Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishta Guna Karma Vibhagasya. So the division is based on quality and actions. So not explicitly birth based. Again, it is different from Manusmriti. The Bhagavad Gita, the take of Bhagavad Gita and the on Varna system, it is completely different from the Manodharma Shastra. So these all texts are belongs. The one thing we have to know, we have to note the point is these all texts are belongs to Hindu tradition only. But in each text, they are interpreting different. They are saying different. So that is the main controversy in the ancient Indian texts. So the emphasis on ethical and psychological disposition, and the emphasis Swadharma, better one's own duty performed imperfectly, like act according to one's inherent nature, and moral authenticity over imitation. And the Bhagavad Gita is emphasized on spiritual equality. The wise see all beings with equal vision, and Atman transcends caste identity. Here one side caste is prevalent in society, but Bhagavad Gita is saying Atman is transcend caste identity. So this is the core tension between Bhagavad Gita and the social reality, and the action and liberation. So the perform duty without attachment, nishkama karma. So if this leads to one controversial actions, because if we do any wrong, like this is a like advantage and disadvantages are there because of this statement. That is, like if you are dreaming, if you have one dream, if you are working for that dream, so the thing is without the like attachment to the results, we have to work for it. This is the one positive side of this statement. But the negative side is, if we do any crime, or if we practice any social evil, so because of this statement, because of this statement, the results of that action will be detaching from ourselves. So the our action or whatever the practicing the social evil, that is we are justifying through the statement of Bhagavad Gita. So this is the two sides of one kind. So moksha is attainable through righteous action, and social engagement compatible with spiritual freedom. And this I already discussed about Varna versus Jati, the distinction. In the Varna fourfold theoretical model, but if we see the if we observe the real society now, in the 2026 also, the Jatis are present, but in real in the system the only fourfold classification is there. But the Jati means it's thousands of birth based communities are there. It is the reality of our society. Varna is a philosophical blueprint, but historical social reality is the Jati and the caste. And the philosophical versus sociological reality, the like ideal it's a functional classification, but in practice it is birth based caste system, and it's fusion of Varna and Jati now, and the gap between normative and empirical. The traditional texts are saying different theory, but in empirical the practice is different. So because of this theory and practice, because of these differences, our so many contemporary Indian philosophers or social reformers will criticize the Varnashrama Dharma and this text, and they reinterpret it different. So we will see how the modern reformers and contemporary Indian philosophers, how they interpreted it. And the historical evolution we already discussed. So Dayananda Saraswati, he's a founder of Arya Samaj, and his book Satya Prakash, he discussed about these gunas, and Varna is based on guna and the qualities, and karma, not birth. So here Manusmriti is the Hindu text, it's ancient Indian text, but Manusmriti says one thing, and here the Dayananda Saraswati, founder of Arya Samaj, and like he is a icon of the Hindu society, but he is saying different. This is the controversy in the Hindu society. Because of this controversies, because of this interpreting in a different way, the things going in a wrong way. So the key ideas is merit based classification, not on hereditary text, the functional division of society, the roles and not ranks, and the social mobility through education and character, and rejection of untouchability and equal dignity of all Varnas. The Dayananda defended Varna as a meritocratic, ethical and functional social system, and rejecting birth-based caste as a later corruption of Vedic religion. He is rejecting the caste. He is the icon of Hindu society, but the Hindu society is practicing different, but in the books and their ideals are different. So this is we have to note this point. So the Sarvepalli Radhakrishna, like he is a Indian philosopher, and he became a president of India also. So he sources the books called Hindu View of Life and Indian Philosophy. His core view is functional and psychological classification based on guna temperament. The whatever the Dayananda Saraswati opinion is matching with Sarvepalli Radhakrishna. The opinion is the same. He is also against the Jati and caste, but the same. The social reality is different. But none of them, like these all people are against caste, but they want to reform within the Varna system, but they don't want to abolish it. And Swami Vivekananda, he is the advocate of Hinduism. Like in the source of the complete works of Swami Vivekananda, the core view is the same. He want to reform within the Varnashrama Dharma, and he is also against the caste system. And he is saying that each soul is potentially divine. If each soul is potentially divine, then why the hierarchy is there? Why the vertical hierarchy is there? Why the one class is dominating another class? Like his question, but he want to take the reform within the Varna system. He don't want to abolish it. He's saying he socially uplift. He want to socially uplift the masses, and future belongs to Shudras and working class. So here future belongs to Shudras and working class means the past is not belong to Shudras and working class. Here we want to note this point. Here the past, the thing, the all the dominant and superiority belongs to Brahmans and whatever the hierarchy is there, that is the thing. So and Swami, the caste is a social custom, not religion, and spiritual equality emphasized. These all people are reformed within the Varna system. And the same, the Mahatma Gandhi also, his position also the same. So he wants to reform within the Varna system, not he wants to, like he is also against caste, he is also against a practice of untouchability and all these social evils. But these all reformers are only reformed within the Varna system, within the tradition. They don't want to reject the tradition. And this contemporary Indian philosopher, the Ambedkar launches one of the most powerful modern critics of Varna theory in Hindu scripture, especially targeting the Manusmriti and the Bhagavad Gita. And he critic appears mainly in annihilation of caste and who are the Shudras and the untouchables and riddles in the Hinduism. In these 4 books, he criticizes the caste, and Manu as the architect of graded inequality, and Ambedkar treats Manusmriti not merely as a legal text but as the constitution document of Brahmanism, and he argues Manu converts Varna into rigid caste, makes it hereditary, and sanctions inequality as divine law. According to Ambedkar, Manu creates a system of hierarchy, Brahmin at the top, and the permanent social segregation, denial of education and property to Shudras, and religious justification for punishment and exclusion. Thus, it is a closed system of social slavery. And the graded inequality, Manu's most dangerous contribution. Like Ambedkar, key concept is graded inequality. Unlike simple oppression, like the master versus slave, like in the Western thing, the caste produces a chain of superiority and inferiority, and each caste oppresses the one below, and this prevents solidarity and revolution. And he sees as Manu's most strategic social design. And denial of fraternity, like Ambedkar argues that caste prevents intermarriage, that is the practice of endogamy, prevents social interaction, prevents emotional unity, thus it destroys fraternity, which he considers essential for democracy. And Ambedkar critics of Bhagavad Gita on the Varna, Gita as a counter-revolution, he says. And in Riddles in Hinduism, Ambedkar argues the Gita was composed as a reaction against Buddhism. According to him, Buddhism challenged sacrifice and Varna hierarchy. The Gita attempts to restore Brahmanical authority. Thus, the Gita is a philosophical defense of social order. And the critique of Gita, like regarding that sloga, Gita says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagasya, Varna created according to Guna and Karma. So Ambedkar argues in theory based on qualities, but in practice always based on birth. He says Guna theory is abstract, unworkable, and a mask for hereditary caste, because Guna can be scientifically measured. If human beings have the 3 Gunas, but how we can measure and how we can classify the Gunas? What is the, like if the Gunas are proportionally varying in an individual, how we can measure? There is lacking of measurement. There is no mechanism exists for reclassification, and society treated Varna as birth fixed, and thus he calls it theoretical camouflage. The radical conclusion is, unlike reformers, Ambedkar does not say interpret scripture differently. He says reject scriptural authority and destroy caste as it at its religious roots, reform Hinduism or leave it. This is why he eventually embraced Buddhism. And Phule on the Varna system, the key works Gulamgiri and Satyashodhak Samaj, Phule strongly rejected the Varna system and saw it as a tool of Brahmanical domination over the Shudras and Atishudras. And in Gulamgiri, it means slavery. Like Phule argued, Varna is not divine but man-made oppression. It was created by Aryan Brahmins to dominate indigenous people. It institutionalized exploitation and humiliation. He compared caste oppression to slavery in America. And the historical interpretation is, Phule proposed a counter history. Aryans invaded India and indigenous Bahujans were subjugated, and Varna ideology justified their enslavement. Thus, Varna is a political conspiracy, not sacred truth. Attack on spiritual authority. Phule rejected the authority of Vedas and Smritis, the mythical justification of caste. He believed religion was used as ideological weapon and equality and social justice. Fully advocated education for Shudras and women and social equality and dignity of labor, abolition of caste hierarchy. He emphasized human equality over religious hierarchy. And Ramaswamy also
Next class.
take the same view. It's only one slide. Like man-made Brahmanical Varna system is a man-made Brahmanical tool of oppression, not a divine social order, and used exploitation Shudras and untouchables, justified inequality, untouchability, and hierarchy. Scriptures, Vedas, Manusmriti reinforce oppression and religion employed as an ideological tool. And the reformist versus radical debate, reformist Gandhi, Vivekananda and Dayananda Saraswati, Radhakrishnan, like radicals are Ambedkar, Phule, Periyar, like they want to continue the tradition, they want a structural dismantling. The philosophical conclusion is core insight, the Varna evolved from a functional merit-based social order into a hereditary oppressive hierarchy. Varna in history became a mechanism of oppression. A just society requires abolishing hereditary hierarchy and affirming human dignity and equality. Yeah, these are references. Thank you.